Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Lawful, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning, Carlene. Good morning, Kent July. Kent, it's so good to see you. I need to check on Mike and Liz. I keep forgetting. So much going on. So good to see you though, Kent. He says, hope everyone had a good weekend. Plan to have a stay cool in today's heat. It has been an interesting time. Now, full disclosure, David was on a private jet going somewhere yesterday. I don't know if David is still asleep or what is going on with him, but he'll join us when he can. But I'm telling you, at 7:30 this morning, today's show for me, and I love David with every fiber of my being because he always comes on and he always has appropriate lessons for us to learn, etc., as we're going through, as we're navigating what is considered some of the most trying times in this country for so many of us. But at 7:30 this morning, Sharif Al-Mekki, founder of the Black Male Educators Convening in 2019, will be on. I read his letter, its entire word for word, scope by scope, on Friday on my show about hazing and the responsibility of parents and educators in school districts for our students. And so I am really looking forward to that conversation, which I'm going to have my producer Paul reshare it for those who missed the show. Many of you don't see the show until I can see the total numbers because I'm on several platforms. You see the platform that you're on, what the numbers are, but I'm seeing the total numbers. Many of you don't get to watch in real time, and you go back and I watch it again. Uh, throughout the day, and so I want to make sure you got it. Bobby Carr said, "So you did well at the mud, man." Okay, so let's. Good morning, Marguerite. Good morning. Good morning, Nina. I signed up for the Mud Dash on my grandchildren's birthday party in June. My daughter-in-law's cousin was there, and she was like, she tells me that you are really athletic and active, and I was like, yeah. And she says, well, have you ever thought about doing a mud run? I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do it. The few times that I've had access to it, I was traveling. You all know. If you follow me on social media, you know I'm always in a car, on a plane, going somewhere. And so I've never had the opportunity to do the mud run. Kind of like I didn't get to go to a Dundee. I missed the first, God knows how many. I went to a Dundee for the first time 2 years ago. I know, shoot me. Just a lot going on. I've just been busy and moving. So I signed up for the mud run and then I got a free bib to have someone join me, and nobody would join me. And I was like, oh my God. I'm going all the way to Millville, New Jersey, which was well over an hour from my house. So the 2 or 3 days before, I said to my husband, I gotta look up to see. So I went online and I was like, what do you need to prepare for the Muddy Dash? You had to bring 2 extra towels, 2 big towels. I understood why. 2 large trash bags. You had to carry a change of clothing. Now I'm about to tell you all some things. You're gonna be like, Andrea, no, you didn't. A change of clothing, wipes to wipe you down, and they had a thing where you can like hose off yourself afterwards, but the line was so long. And they tell you, just to make sure that because you can't get back in your car with all that mud on you. They were changing places, but again, there were like 10 for hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people. So I was like, no way. I get into the race. I wasn't even racing. I literally was not racing. I said, let me take my time because this is my first time doing it. So for anybody who ever wants to do a Muddy Dash, it is absolutely doable. Man, me what? Went around the first corner. I see this mud pile like really high above my head, and you have to climb it. You have to walk through muddy water, climb the mud pile, jump over it. I said, I'm not going to be able to do it. Got there, I got up, jumped over. Then we saw another mud pile, got up, jumped over. And then there were these barriers that you had to jump over, and there were 4 of them. And I want to transparently tell you, I did the first one, just jumped up, went over, and they were like, oh, you can do this. I got to the second one. I could not get up to save my life and almost quit. I said, I cannot do this. It is too much. You got to pull up your whole body weight. This white man that was standing next to me said, not only can you do it, I watched you do the other one with no problem. So he said, it's all your mind. And when he said that, he said, I'm going to stand here. I stepped back, jumped up, loped over that, and then I had to do two more. So there were four of them that I had to do. I had to do a mud crawl. It was all kinds of things going on, but I had such a wonderful time. It was 3 miles of obstacles, and my daughter-in-law's cousin came. She was there. She said all her friends signed up. Nobody shows up to this thing, so she was happy to see me. And I met a few other people who that had been their first time. Your hair does not get wet. I promise you. I had my little hat on. I had my little soft hat on. Your hair does not get wet. Your face doesn't get wet, but your whole body, like you're really getting. And I had to wear clothes that were the mud, so wick clothing. For athletes know this. If you wear cotton, the sweat sticks to your body because the cotton holds the water. So I had a wick shirt on. Team Jamaica Bickle had given us some, and I was like, what kind of weird shirt is this? But I was happy to have it. So I did the 3 miles. I didn't feel like, doing what I needed to do. So I go back out to my car, y'all. I get the trash bags, the big trash bags. And fortunately for me, thank God I have a brain. I had brought a dress that I could just throw over my head, throw it over my body. And while the dress was on, I took off the pants, right? And then I took bottles of water that I had in my car and I washed down my legs. Oh my God, I was sticky and filled with mud. Took off the socks, took off the shoes, threw them in the trash bag. I'm just telling you so that when you go, you know. I know, Shamika. I'm looking forward to El Meki too. Took off everything, put it in, and then I was like, how am I going to get? All right, I'm gonna keep the dress on, but my underwear was sticky and muddy, so I stood there with 10,000 people walking by, and I got out of my underwear, opened up one of my car doors where I had a little bit of privacy, and stood behind the car door and put on a clean pair of underwear because there was no way. And then I put the towels over the seats and a trash bag on the floor because my foot now at this point is wet. I had my slides on and sat in the car and drove home. Baby, I got home and took everything out the trash bag and the mud that was coming out. My husband was looking at me like, you drove home like this? Yes. And then went to the shower. But it was fantastic, y'all. I would ask any of you who want to do this to really try it. It's liberating. It feels like you carefree in the middle of all the things that are going on. And it's just been a trying time for so many people. I have been posting in between trying to find the joy, the little bit of joy that we have in this country right now, posting, the things that are going on. So David is still not here. I want to show you this. I want to open this and talk to you about it because I had written it a little while ago and I wanted to talk about it again just so we could have dialogue about it. There are 10 cases of leprosy now in Florida. No one seems to know where the leprosy cases came from. And so there is that. We're having dialogue about that piece. There is, still fighting going on in Iran. The Caribbean countries are exposing that they're being told that that they have to get rid of China out of their countries. They have to, like, all sorts of crazy things are going on. So I want to read this and then let's have a conversation about it. I wrote this in 2020 and it remains true. When we are leaders, part of our role is to help others get to a better place so that they too can grow and thrive. Here is the problem. If you decide after helping someone that they should in turn remain beholden to your every whim fancy out of a never ending gratitude for your help, then it becomes servitude for them over time and a stroking of your ego. The best leaders expect nothing beyond doing what they are called to do. And when you expect nothing, that is when you gain the most. You cannot fake being kind and authentic. You either are or you aren't. Doing your inner work to a space of wellness would alleviate all of what I just wrote above. One more thing. Take a hard look at the three closest people to you because we actually attract to us who we are. Eye opening to say the least. Those who have ears. I spent the last several days, talking to people. I've been in meetings, quiet meetings, luncheons, or sometimes, I try not to do this on the phone as much. I try to meet with people. Um, and so the dialogues that I've been having are people working in leadership, working with leaders who are pious and petty and making their lives miserable. And these folks are quitting their jobs en masse. Like I cannot work for you like this. They expect much, but they don't give much in return. One young sister said that she had worked so hard. She was constantly working 12, 14 hours, just running behind this one leader. She didn't even have time to do her laundry. She had to just keep stopping at stores and buying new clothes. For me, that's crazy as hell. There are folks who are having dialogue about, losing their jobs. I put up a post this morning, one of the pundits that's, I believe, on CNN or MSM Now. Let me pull that up so you can hear this, because this is also absolutely true, and I don't know why we're not having this conversation. Right?
Person who says this here, I have more friends out of work who have been out of work over the last 2 years than at any other time in my life, and it is across various professions. I'm talking about friends who are engineers. I'm talking about friends who work in environmental policy. I'm talking about all of my friends in Hollywood and journalism and everything else like that. Sometimes I hear these conversations and I laugh because I get the text message. They're like, yo, who are these people talking to? I was just on the phone with a friend of mine who was a producer who worked on a commercial for the Super Bowl 6 months ago. She's like, I have been out of work for 6 months. I've been working since I was 16 when I got hired at MTV and have never been out of work this long. That is the Americans right now who are furious. And that's before I get to my students, many of whom, as you said, they can get jobs, but they don't have move out of the house jobs. And that's what you want. Everybody can go get a job. Everybody can go work at Chipotle, even if you're in management. But if I can't pay the 3 months that I need to get an apartment in Baltimore, let alone New York City or Atlanta or Los Angeles, I am furious. The degree to which Republicans and Democrats have failed to address any of these issues is why you have so many people angry right now. And when you have a president who is completely detached from these people, and you have politicians who keep pretending that an AI data center or a trans kid in the bathroom is going to fix your situation, that's why people are so angry. It can be fixed. We have examples in this city. We have examples in DC. But as long as people want to pretend that the problems can be fixed by cultural issues, instead of addressing the real fact, I'm talking 45, 50-something-year-old people who have worked their entire lives, who survived COVID, and they are out of work right now. And no one's talking to those people. And it's infuriating to me politically.
So they're now having major discussions about this in legacy media. But we who have been having the dialogue with our friends and families, it's dire. It's dire. I was talking to a sister friend of mine last week, and she actually was the one that called me and told me about the avocado oil on sale for $8.99. And I was so proud of her. Because she got laid off, and in the middle of getting laid off, she took some monies that she had, the severance that she had, and paid off all her major bills. So all she has really now is her mortgage and her utilities, right? She's talking through how she gets things on sales, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking to people who have had to adjust in such a way. And then I'm talking to people who have lost their jobs 2, 3 years ago, but say, but I need to maintain the profile that I've had. I'm still going to Martha's Vineyard. I'm staying on somebody's couch. I'm still trying to figure. No, 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 no. We have to figure out how to adjust. Even when we get laid off and then we're finding jobs, those jobs are paying 1/3 less than what we're accustomed to making. So the lifestyle, and it's a deliberate way for us to change our lives. It's not going to be an easy time. David and I have had this conversation with so many of you over and again. It's not going to be an easy time. So at the end of 2024, I looked at my husband and I said, all right, we have to adjust, and we want to adjust now while we can adjust. And so we started doing certain things. And we've I said, instead of driving across the country, I'm doing these 1-day trips. We're doing the Sojo trip with Nakia Murray next Monday. The little things that we can do, the 1-day things or the 2-day things. for no other reason other than we see the handwriting on the wall and we really want to make sure that we are ready and prepared for it. Our water systems are being compromised. The phones, if the phones are going out, T-Mobile and Verizon, all these things are testing you to see how you can navigate without having access. I've asked you, do you know how to get from point A to point B without using your navigation system? If all hell breaks loose, gas is out of control. It's $70 to put a half a tank of gas in my car. Hell, if I'm driving anywhere that I don't have to be at this point, just chilling, right? The food. I'm growing my stuff in the garden now to eat as much as I can out of my garden. But we've been talking about this for years. I've had Black farmers come on and have dialogue to say this is where you can eat. If you don't want to buy the lettuce from the supermarket where they're putting all sorts of things inside of them, ostensibly to clean them, then you shop at local organic farms. You ask them, what are you using as a fertilizer, right? Those things make a difference. Farmer John is out here. There's so many local farmers in Pennsylvania and Delaware. I'm thinking of Alexandra Ferris from Edge Hill Farms that drops off eggs at our door just about every week. She comes and she delivers to different people in the area. And she brings me eggs. I'm not paying for these. She just brings me a dozen eggs every week or so, and I'm so grateful. Where can you? I'm growing my callaloo right in the front of my yard. My husband's like, "This is a big old yep, and we're gonna pull it and cut it and cook it. There's fresh thyme. There's all the things that we can do to make a difference. But how are you showing up? Because people are so angry. To this man's point, people are so angry and frustrated. The slightest thing you say to them, it feels like you say, "Excuse me, what are you talking about? What do you want? Why are you doing this?" Oh, no, no, and folks are just losing it. It's not because you're getting on their nerves so much. It's because it's that one straw that tipped over for them. They can't deal with anything else that's happening around them. So it's very difficult, very difficult. I'm the best at what, Laverne? I'm sorry, I've been talking. I don't know what you're talking about now. Monica says you are bad to the bone, Hunter. Girl, let me tell you, that was not easy. And so then I went to the gym, and my trainer says, "Wait, you did a mud run and you're here? Why? Why are you here?" I said, "Because I feel." He said, "Andrea, you did a full body workout." So he said, "Less weights, more reps." And so that's what I ended up doing. But man, it was fun. It was absolutely fun. Shamika says, "I ran a Tough Mudder about 10 or so years ago, but did it with a group. I wish I was available." I wish you were too, honey. Because I had a ball. I had a ball. Marguerite says, "Nope, I don't make mud pies as a child. The most mud I would ever do was in the military. I'll go next time and be your photographer." Come on, y'all. Oh, good, Laverne. Instead of walking yesterday, I rented a bike and rode a bike for the first time in years. Absolutely. I was having that conversation with a friend of mine. Was it yesterday? And she was like, "I haven't ridden a bike." I said, it's like, you'll be fine. Just try it. Marguerite said there are farmers markets in almost every community in Philadelphia. Absolutely. So go to the farmers markets and say, and sometimes the Black Farmers Collective, they give away a lot of the food for free. So if you're thinking I can't afford it or whatever it is, they give you the food because they have so much produce. So you really want to make it a habit of shopping with local farmers instead of going into the market, because those packaged things, oh my goodness, it's a lot. Good morning, Viola. Viola says, "I'm so angry. My grandfather is in a facility until my aunt comes from a trip. I told him, don't make me flip all the. Ah! I told my aunt if I go and it seems off, I'm taking him out. These facilities is another thing. Folks are, Lord, girl, I can't even. There's so many things to discuss, so many things to poke at. And this week for me, I really want to discuss back to school, which is why Sharif El Mekki is going to be so important in this conversation. I really, truly just want us to discuss what to expect, what our parents to expect, what our teachers to expect, etc. Laverne, the only way these facilities work for anyone is if your family members show up consistently and show up without telling them that you're coming, and they don't know when you're coming, so they will try to do their best to make sure your family member is okay. The ones that struggle the most in these facilities are the ones where the family members drop them off and just never show up again, or come back once every few months, etc., etc. A dear friend of mine, was just put into a facility recently. She's having memory care, and her family was, oh my God, her family was so amazing. They went into her house and pulled out parts of her furniture to put in her new space in her new room, and pictures and all the things to make her feel like she's still kind of semi at home. She was still sad, but when she walked into the room and saw all the memories, her little table, her little lamp, pictures on the wall, all those things, they make a difference if you have to. And these facilities are not cheap, which is the crazy part about it, right? Oh, Simone says we have a friend that drops off eggs and veggies every 2 weeks. So that's what I'm talking. Find your village, right? It's a blessing. It's mud. It washes off. It's so much fun. It really truly is. At one point we had to jump on a rope and just, and I landed in that mud and I cracked up laughing. I said, well, here we go. Um Laverne says, I woke up yesterday saying this yeared. I didn't do so much I planned to do. This was a pivot. I need to take care of me kind of year. So 50 didn't go as planned. Uh, a good day for me now, because remember, I got so sick, I had to shut down, which we've been talking about this. Stress absolutely kills. I was still eating properly. I was still exercising, and my cortisol level went out through the roof, and I had to shut all the way down. So to alleviate the stress, um, one of the things I do, and I was telling another friend this recently, if I don't have to be somewhere, I'm not signing up to go do this, and this. I may sign up to do 3 or 4 things during the week. If it's past a certain time, I'm not doing it. Forgive me, y'all. I don't want to be out at 8 o'clock at night, so I'm in my house. And if I am in the house and there's nothing going on, I take a nap. Oh my God, the most refreshing thing. I take a nap. I write in my journal. These are the things that help to alleviate stress so we're not killing ourselves as we're continuing to do this work to make sure that people are okay. Um, Viola said, "Oh, good luck on the colonoscopy." Is Dr. Blake still with us, Viola? Dr. Blake was our the one that we did our colonoscopy with, and he ended up with colon cancer. Got really sick, and closed down his practice. So it's amazing. Laura says, after reading your post on strawberries, I'm going to really seek out a farmer's market, and you can grow your own strawberries. I grew my own strawberries last year and ate them. Very easy to do. Very easy to do. Good morning, Mabel. Good morning. Laura says, I would like to support a black owned farmers market. Is there what, Laura? There are plenty of them. Farmer John has one in the Cheltenham area, just right outside of Northwest Philly. But just look, just Gurgle, black farmers market. Uh, Krista Barfield is the leader of, and according to a recent article, she is the largest black-owned farmer now in the state of Pennsylvania, with over 1,000 acres of farm land that she manages. Um, Dolores says, Sharon, I'm sorry, Sharon. Good morning, Sharon. When my mother was in a facility, my dad was there every day. I was there every other day, and my one brother 4 times a week. We also brought things for staff. Never had a problem. Thank you for letting folks know that. It's absolutely important. Marguerite says, when my mother was in assisted living and memory care, I personalized it with her things, and I was there every other day. I paid $8,500 a month for her care in Bryn Mawr. Ooh, child, it's a lot of money. Not cheap. Laverne says, I work in the field. The facilities in Philadelphia are mostly terrible. Yeah. And anything that you need to get for your children, too, make sure. Laverne, what I do with that? Laverne, if you're sitting there, call me, please. 215-400-0146. 215-400-0146. Call me, please, because I want to have a conversation with you soon as I started talking about this, about what's happening with childcare and pre-K and the needs for children who are struggling through, needing services, and the services are not being handed to them. Friend of mine was the head of um, services for the Philadelphia School District, and her son needed services, and she reached out to Elwyn. It took them a year to get back to her. A year! So if you have small children and you can see early on that they're going to need some kind of services, those children that we're considering problem children are the children who are dealing with emotional issues, not emotional issues, that there are things like autism, you name the thing that's going on with them. And so their behavior is a little different. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marva. How may I help you?
My name is Laverne.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're awake because usually you're up by 7 o'clock. What happened in city council last week?
So there was it was called a pre-K push-out hearing that Councilman Isaiah Thomas called for, because I'm assuming that parents were complaining about not being able to get their children to stay in child care programs. So they were basically being suspended and expelled from child care programs. And the reason they're being suspended and expelled is basically because they don't have the services that they need. So a child care program will say they don't have the capacity for the child and that they can't keep them. But from what I learned at this meeting, the child care programs do suspend the children. But what I know is that for us, most of us don't suspend and expel. We don't have the capacity. The children don't get the services that they need. When they do get on a list, it's a long waiting list. And they are problems. They're challenging behaviors that the staff can't handle, things like that. So, you had the parents there. You had Kendra, but she was like, what's the problem? We need to fix it. I'm a grandmother, and this happens. They call me to come pick the baby up and stuff. And I understand that. But what they're not understanding is that robots are not taking care of these children. It's humans. And people are leaving the field every day. And I made a video, I think I made a video Sunday, because I said that what families have to understand while they're having children, they have to make sure they're having children with a man and a woman that they can co-parent with. They have to be prepared that there is a possibility something may happen with their child and they may have to stay home. Because the reality is parents are not, I don't know what's happening at home, but whatever is happening at home, however they handle them, the schools cannot. And so if you have a child who comes in a classroom and starts beating up the kids and tearing up the classroom and doing all the things, how do you protect the children that are there in addition to their child? How do you protect the teachers who are, serving those entire children or the whole classroom without them wanting to quit because they are not equipped to do it? And everybody keeps saying resources. We need resources. No, we need people. Yeah. We need people that are educated and trained in the field, and they are not coming in the field, and the ones that's in the field are leaving because they are tired and burnt out and abused. Jesus. And so Sean Perkins, he is the person who is in charge of the PHL pre-K program. And he says this thing where he's like, we have contract where they are not allowed to suspend the children. They are not allowed to expel the children. We have to go through the different processes. And we do. We do have to go through the different processes. But if you have a child that comes in and destroys your classroom and harms your teachers, and your teachers quit, now you are short of staff. You have to protect the other children. Sean Perkins I'm a pushbacker, so he can't tell me what to do. But I do one child with an IEP because I cannot handle more than one. Right. And the Elwin that comes out and gives the children the services and stuff, they are only giving those children 45 minutes to an hour of service. Children are with you from 5.5 hours to 12 hours a day. Yeah. And there's no one-on-one. And if your program is not bringing in enough money to hire your own personal one-on-one, your own personal mental health therapist and stuff, then you kind of by yourself with your staff.
And so there's something going on. I would say the babies born 2020 on, they come out. Is it me? Did they come out a little differently? Laverne, you've been working with these children. What's happening?
I don't know if you remember, but when I was in school, there were classes. They were called LD classes. So the children who had learning disabilities were in those classes. And I experienced one of those classes. I used to hooky school a lot. So when I got to this class, I don't even think it was 10 kids in the class. They couldn't read. The teacher read to them. They didn't listen. They were bouncing off the wall. And I will tell you, it was boys. I probably was the only girl. I got suspended because I was like, I do not need you to read to me. And then my grandmother found out. They put me in that class because I never went to school and take tests and stuff to get placed properly. But it was always set up so that these children can get probably the better support, to where they eventually, when the 90s came and the 2000s came, they said, oh, we don't have to put them in a smaller class. They can go in the classroom with medication. Yeah. So while people are saying, oh, the parents, they'll put the kids on the medicine for a check, the schools were promoting the medicine too, because they did it with my son and I declined. So my kids had all these notes in their records saying mom refused and all this stuff. But I didn't refuse. I just didn't say yes to what you guys felt like was the right thing for them. So as a child care provider, Laverne, because Shakila says, please make sure you guys know now your child's IEP backwards and forwards. And if it's not up to par, advocate now. She makes a whole lot of sense. My daughter in love, our twins are almost 4. She noticed what's the word that I'm looking for? Whatever the word is, but she requested to have a meeting with the school, and so for each child we had the school. The teachers were like, "Oh my God, this is wonderful!" And we sat and we talked through everything, and they got Paste a speech therapist because she spoke, but then she would when she got into larger environments she wouldn't speak. And that woman, let me just tell you, Laverne, is in their house 5 days a week, 6 hours each time. I had never seen anything like it in my entire life. And now my girl, who would always speak to us all the time, speaking in 4 or 5 sentences at once. But to your point, there has to be. But she literally, my son says, stay home. We will figure this out. Stay home so we can work with our children. They're going off to kindergarten with the best resources they could possibly have. And I'm gonna say this because one of the mothers came in and spoke, but she said Montgomery County. And I told Councilman Thomas, I said, let me explain something to you. I said, the problem is Philadelphia. I said, Montgomery County has money. They put money into those children. They don't do that here in Philadelphia. They're taking the money. We don't know where the money. Andrea, we get a little bit over $1,000 a month per child. What? We don't get what the school, I don't even know what the school district gets, so I won't speak on it, but I guarantee we don't get what the school district gets. We don't get paid to serve children who have services or need services. We don't get paid for that. So me bringing in a person and saying, can I get you to work? And now you have to work with children with challenging behaviors. I can get all the free training for that person in the world, but they're going to easily say, I don't get paid enough for this. And they're going to walk away. Yeah. If I go and get a job right now as a special instructor, I can make $60 an hour, $50 an hour. Yeah. And so that's part of the problem. What Shakila said about the IEP and stuff. Yes, get an IEP, but what happens is they get the IEP. Nobody reads the IEP, so nobody is giving these children what they need. That's the other thing. Why the hell are they not? Is it too much? Are there too many children with IEPs? Because who's reading them? Who's reading them? Laverne? I can tell you a lot of people do not read them because they don't have the mental capacity. It's like, oh my God, we got another one. When you have a child care program who has 10 children in there and then 8 of them have services, 8 of them need services. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. So you're just like, okay, I'm gonna try my best to teach this child like they're normal as possible, but you really cannot do that. Wow. But waiting for Elwyn and all these places to get services, and the first thing these parents do is they go to the Education Law Center. They want to sue. They want you. I made it clear. It is dangerous to force your children to be put in a child care program that does not have the capacity to serve them. Wow. It is dangerous. And that's what these parents seem to be wanting to do. You can't make me keep your child if I can't handle him. And you shouldn't want me to, because that's dangerous. These children are eloping, they're leaving, they're running away from the program.
What?
It's a lot of stuff going on out here. And when you see it on the news, the child care owner looks bad. Because it's like, how you let that happen? She didn't let it happen. Believe it or not, she didn't let it happen.
Oh, wow. Tracy says, since COVID, there has been a shortage in services. Also, burnout is very prevalent with the providers, and they leave the employer, which puts a strain on services. Ooh, child.
Exactly. It is. It's a lot. Everybody is leaving. Everybody is leaving the field. People are not going to school for it anymore. It's a lot. And so, and I don't know what happened, but I'm just seeing a lot of the children, they're either on the spectrum and they're not high functioning.
Wow.
Or they are delayed. They don't have they cannot speak.
Oh,
who knows what it is? And Andrea, I've been out of the state visiting child care programs and stuff, and the most that I've seen is it's environmental.
Yep.
It's environmental. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if as us in our generation, if we're all on a spectrum, we are very, very high functioning. So we never needed to be diagnosed.
But as the environment got worse,
I don't know.
Yeah, but as the environment got worse, as the air that we breathe, all the things that are around us got worse. It's a thing, right? Tracy says, we found that we had to find services outside of Philadelphia because some of Philly's services have wait lists or they are just trash. That's what's happening with the family. So who holds those service providers accountable? To my friend's point that I talked to last week, like who holds them accountable?
Right. I don't know. I know when they come in here for my children, if I don't like them, if they're not a good fit, I'm always active with the parents. I sit in the meetings with them and everything. This person is not a fit. Like some of them come in and they really just don't want to deal with certain kids. They're just doing a job. No, you cannot do that here. I need to be able to see what you're doing is allowing this child to progress and thrive in our program. You cannot separate this baby from us unless it's a speech thing.
Right.
Other than that, you're going to sit in with all of us, and you're not going to exclude this baby from these activities that we're doing.
God bless you.
You have to communicate with them, and you have to make sure that they are properly doing their job.
Listen, Butterfly says school district receives somewhere close to $60,000 per child to serve children with special instruction and support services.
Wow. Yeah, we don't get we don't get extra money. We get trainings and that's it. And there is a lot of trainings and stuff that we can take and we can get. But again, if it's just me and I have a majority of children that have services and stuff, and again, all of them are not. I've had a baby that he was devastated outside my door, screaming and hollering, and his mother wasn't physically well, so she could not handle him. And I had to bring him inside. That baby cried with me for 3 months straight, every day, all day. Every day, all day. And so, and me, being me, and that's my baby to this day. He's going to stop crying, Mom. Don't worry about it. He's going to stop crying. And he did. And he was just as happy as ever.
But you have to have the patience and the temperance. Yes.
To do that. My other children, we loved on him and stuff. And he eventually stopped crying. But when you have a person who has 10 and 20 children, that is not the same picture.
Yeah.
That was a picture for me because I only had 6 children.
Right. Wow. Laverne said, Shakila said, that part, Laverne, stop trying to fit your children in a system that isn't working for them. It changes their mental health as well. Yes. And then they become angry teenagers and you wonder what's going on. Joanne Kemp says, I saw children given food prior to medicine for ADHD because it takes away their appetite. One medicine, some can cause diabetes easier and financially more profitable. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I wish Essence was on here. Essence is on vacation, but I wish she was on here because Essence is the early intervention educator.
Yes.
That's the one. Like I've had a podcast Zoom with a special instructor, a mom who has 2 children with on the spectrum, and a couple of other people and some providers, just so we can all talk about it together collectively. Because it's a must. But Essence is the early childhood intervention educator, and the aspect she can give you from it is way different from mine. Okay. My experience is just directly as a child care provider. Hers is on both sides: the child care provider, the parent, and Jesus. The early intervention educator.
Oh my God. Shakila says, first of all, Laverne, thank you. This is just me talking. Thank you for picking up the phone and calling, because I saw you had sent me something about the meeting at City Council. I watched that thing. I was so frustrated. I said, I'm not calling her because I'm not adding frustration on top of frustration. But I knew at some point. So I'm glad you woke up early this morning for us to have the conversation. Shakila says, Andrea, I'm wondering what this audit will show with the school district of Philadelphia regarding special education services. My suspicion is that they're sending checks to parents and making them sign NDAs. What?
Wow. Wow. I never thought about that. I just think they just don't do what they're supposed to do with the money. I know even with us, they don't do what they're supposed to do with the money.
Shakila, that's a strong accusation, my sister. Yes. Wow. But Butterfly says the managed care expectation makes it difficult to be a provider of services with the cookie cutter expectation that they have for children and childcare providers to complete is unrealistic. Ooh, Jesus. Lord, Laverne, God bless you. And you've been at this for years. Tracy says, I believe that money allocated to our special needs student needs to go to the programs for typical children. You can't tell me different. The school district feels like our students don't matter. Wow. Yeah. You all have a heavy indictment on the school district of Philadelphia.
They don't think the children matter, because there are a lot of educators and stuff in those schools, in certain schools and stuff, that really do care and put their effort in everything, and I see it every day. But I will say there are a lot of parents who are the problem too, and in this city we have to acknowledge that there are a lot of parents who are the problem. But my kid is a good kid is not always a good kid.
Yeah,
that's just the reality. You know, no resources and stuff for the parents. Sometimes they don't want it. You know, it's a lot. It's a whole collective thing.
And Laverne, it's also a process, because I watched my daughter in love. She was on the phone calling this one, calling that one. She was able. My son looked at her and said, "You're amazing." The children are talking, running up and down. The twins, especially, running up and down, having conversations. Had she not put those early interventions in place as a parent, you know, she saw one was talking, the other one really wasn't talking as much. So she started to do what she needed to do. 2-year-old boss child, just running around telling everybody everything. But now all the children are on par and ready to do what they need to do. And she put them in preschool at 2.5, 3, right? And so what happened was the teachers would call her throughout the day and give her reports. All right, this is what's happening today, da 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 da. When they were in childcare, they had cameras in the childcare room so that the parents could watch them. Wherever. There was so much to navigate, so much, Laverne.
It's a lot. It is. I won't say it's not. And then, so when my children who are on the spectrum, when they leave here, I refer them to the Montessori school around here. The school district has voted to close that Montessori school. When I tell you, I have children because of the charter school. When I tell you I have children that have left here on the spectrum, the one that I just told you cried for 3 months, when he left here to start kindergarten there, it took them 2.5 hours to get their baby together, him and his mother. The support that they received from that school, and the school district has voted to close that school, out of pocket, all the way out of pocket. So I'm so happy that they're getting audited, because all the charter schools is not the problem either.
Yeah. Andrea says, precisely, Shakila, where is the money going? Show your work, school district of Philadelphia. Shakila says, the IEPs are difficult to read. Please reach out for help if you need some help understanding them, which is why the teachers at my daughter-in-law school say, if your mother-in-law is with us, because you know I know chapter 14, and stop playing with me. I know it well, and I've helped thousands of children. So my 3, 4, 5, however many grandchildren I got, oh yeah, they're going to be all right. Someone says this needs to be a conference. Wow. Wow.
And it has to be one. I know there is a conference. I'm wondering if Shakira can speak to that, but there has to be one where the panel has all the people on it. We've had
Yeah.
one where we had all the organizations on there and one parent, and that was really good. It was really good. It was a few months ago. We did have one,
right,
but it allowed us to be able to for everybody to speak.
Yeah.
Because we all have to be speaking to each other.
Yeah.
If everybody's not speaking to each other, the agency, it's very difficult.
So according to Shakila, the settlements include NDAs. So you're settling with the parents, giving them money, and then they can't talk about it. But what happens to the child?
Nothing.
Jesus, this
Absolutely
is
nothing.
Shamika says, I've had the same in-home childcare provider in Philly for all 5 of my children spanning 20 years now, including current one with IEP. I know I am blessed. Amazing care. It makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. Marguerite says, childcare and teachers are God's angels. Yep. Um, and are not given their just due. It just takes a special kind of person to pour into others' children. And a lot of people, a lot of people just don't want to. Yeah. I've had staff I had to fire because they just don't want to. Oh yeah, well see
no, they just don't want to, and I tell you, I will flip all the shit over. Don't play with my babies.
I love you.
Don't play with my baby.
I love you.
And then came on social media to try and assassinate my girl. I said, if you don't get off this social media, I will ruin your life.
Don't mess with the babies.
I have cameras everywhere, and I will ruin your life. I promise you, I fired you nicely.
Yeah. Wow.
But there's people out here who do not want to deal with people's kids.
Yeah. So Shakila, what I'd love to do, Shakila says, just tell me what y'all want to see. What I'd like to do is have a program here, this program, where Shakila, Laverne, Essence, like a group, and it would be like a 2-hour, let's sit and really go through this, and then have some parents join us to have the dialogue, because not everybody's going to show up in a physical place for a conference, but everybody can watch this thing online. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
It's just there is so much going on and so many parts to this. Parents, educators, childcare providers. I mean, you've heard me say this on this program. There are educators that just don't want to be with our children. They don't care. It's a paycheck for them. I've sat with them, Laverne, when they says, well, why are you here? Because I make the paycheck and I'm friends with the educators here. Yep. That's why I show up to it, but I don't like these children. You know how damaging that is to the child long term,
and so tell. Children can tell.
Yes,
they can tell. They know when the persons don't like them and don't care.
Yeah, yeah,
they know. They can tell.
Yeah.
And the very young ones can tell.
Yeah, they can, because what happens is when they realize, they shy away from you. Why won't you go to Miss So and So? When your children don't want to go to an adult, do not force them to, because out of your presence, Miss So and So or Mr. So and So is doing or saying something that child finds. Children, they have feelings and intuition too. Katie says, God bless you.
I had a baby coming here, and I mean, he was terrible. And the dad came and said, we've tried everything. I don't know what to do. He's been kicked out of all the schools. And he stayed with me. He didn't have to leave. But they were so stressed. So stressed. And I mean, it's not always the parents. They don't know what to do. Especially young parents, But you gotta have the patience and the tolerance. You gotta have the love to work with them and then work with the children. But I am a person who, you as a parent you have to work with me. We can't do it. I can't do it by myself. You have to work with me.
Yes. And I'm grateful that you do that, because then they understand that it is a team effort, not just you trying to do it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I tell my parents all the time. I was just now revising my handbook yesterday. This is the village.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I don't have a village. It's just me. This is the village. So we in this together. So parent engagement is very important in my program. Very important.
And so you said something that struck me, because many school districts oftentimes, and I don't care if it's in the suburbs or in the city, they don't really want to invite parents in because they think the parents are too nosy and know too much, etc., etc.,
Right.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Um, Shakila says, Marguerite, wait. Marguerite said something and Shakila responded to her. She says, Marguerite says, I believe the parents' diligence and their willingness to advocate makes a difference in a child's life. And Shakila says, Marguerite, sometimes our advocacy makes a difference and sometimes it makes it worse. These schools will make parents who advocate the enemy. And I've seen that happen. That's when I get the call. Yeah.
I tell you, they had in my son's files, mom refused, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So I want to say publicly, I've said this to you privately, thank you. Thank you so much for continuing the fight. When I talk to leaders across the city about what has to be, your name comes up over and again. I'm like, yeah, she was up in Harrisburg and she was in city council. You are walking the walk.
You, Anthony, oh my God, I love Dr. Phillips. I do, but he was pissing me off.
Well, listen, tell me why he was pissing you off.
So I mean, I can explain it to him another time, but and I'm gonna be patient because I understand everybody don't understand the system. You know what I mean? So I get it.
Yeah. Jacina said, I'm so grateful for Laverne. I tried to get my babies in her daycare. Girl. Marguerite says, I stopped working in corporate America to be a full-time advocate for my child and on the spectrum. Intellectually, it made a great difference. We're still working on him being a social adult. Shakila says, so I talked to a former city council member who said their nepotism didn't even help their neurodivergent child in this educational system. Yeah, it's
wow.
Wow. You got to know somebody that knows how this works, and you've got to be dogmatic. You have to be dogmatic. I have a cousin who was on the autism wheel, and he was in the Philadelphia school district. And I went up there with my cousin one year, and the way they talked to her, I flipped every table. I said, oh, we're not doing this. Everybody's shaking in their boots. And when I walked out, I said, we can stay here and get the services, pulling and dragging and kicking teeth, or you can buy a house in Abington. She bought the house in Abington. Baby, he graduated from Temple University. Listen to me. He went through Abington and graduated from Temple University. Did you hear what I'm saying to you? Gave him such a fighting chance. And it was towards the end of his school year there, I walked into the building. I was in the school on the school board, and he ran over. He says, Cousin Andrea. And the woman was like, wait, you're related to him? I was like, yes. And I knew I was related to him. And I watched you the entire time. You're a phenomenal educator. She started to cry because she thought as a school board member, I was going to come in there and say X, Y, Z. No, you were doing what you were supposed to do. You loved on him. You gave him all that he needed and all the other children in your care. But not everybody can pick up and buy a house in Abington or in Cheltenham or in Upper Dublin or even rent a space out there. Do you see what it costs to rent places now? And there are folks who are deliberately not renting for people of color because they do not want you to add too much diversity to their communities. And I'm saying that very nicely. There's a lot, right? So and trust me, there to Shakila's point, there are city council members who have neurodivergent children. How they're not even getting, they have to go to Montgomery County to get the services. So whoever called for it, was it the council president that called for an audit of the school district of Philadelphia? Yeah. Something's going on. It's just crazy. Jennifer says, thank you, Laverne. Your advocacy and love for these babies is making a difference.
We have a ECE task force that we meet we meet once a month, and we have now just broke out in sessions. So this allows us all to communicate as well on all the things that the children need and stuff in the ECE field. And Dr. Phillips is a part of that. And so, like I said, we are being patient and being able to explain things to him. But the biggest thing is that we come down and we advocate to make sure that whatever bills that they choose to pass is beneficial for everyone and not just to protect the parents and the children. Because again, it's dangerous to force your child or any child to be in a program or a facility that cannot serve them. It is dangerous. And especially if the services and stuff are not there for that. You know, that puts a lot of liability on us. We're having a hard time getting insurance because of such liabilities and stuff that's happening. So understanding how our system works is crucial when you incorporate children who need services and children who have challenging behaviors and stuff like that. You know, because personally, if my son came in here and tore up my house, I'm gonna tear him up. But we can't do that in that situation. So it's a system that we do all have to talk together and figure out a solution together, not just say these children need to be here because these families have to work. Now, everything is expensive, absolutely. But the reality is when you are ready to have a child, you must sit and have those conversations of the possibility that somebody may have to stay home or y'all gonna have to switch shifts.
Yep. Yuppity, yup. I remember my daughter-in-law, she was in tears. She's like, all I'm doing is working with babies all day. And my son was like, yo, if you go back to work, all of that money is just going to go to daycare. Who takes better care of your children than we do? And I mean, he's so involved and engaged. He's working full time. She's staying home full time with the babies, but he comes up from work and he's doing the laundry and he's cooking dinner. I love watching them. You have to work as a team. You can't just lay down. You lay down with dogs, you're going to get fleas. Can't lay down with Lottie Dottie and anybody because you have to have a plan. So that means there were things that they had to adjust in their households. Daycare was $5,000 a month for the twins alone. Did you hear what I'm telling you? And the daycare earned every penny. But if you cannot afford to pay for this stuff, then somebody has to make the decision to stay home. Now, if you are not in a marriage, baby, and you're a single parent trying to make it do what it does, then there's a whole nother conversation to be had. Katie says, pisses me all the way off that little brown babies don't deserve the right to quality education. Katie, this is why mother constantly has this conversation on here about taking care, making sure you're following everything that's going on with your children. Don't think because they're in a great space, quote unquote, they're being treated well. I would gander to say this, and you all could tell me I'm crazy and sucking canal water, but remember that I have traveled around the country. I have been in school districts around this country. Children in the suburban environment fall through the cracks way more, Black children, way more than children in the city. Way more. So can you imagine the devastation and what they have to go through? So the school district pretends that, well, not pretend. They do more. I can hear an echo in the background, Laverne. The school district is doing more, but they do it with resentment. All these children coming here and blah, blah, blah. So you have to still advocate and do what you need to do. Shakila says, Dr. Phillips means well. Definitely be patient. Pull in reinforcements if necessary. I will talk to him if you like. Shakila says, Andrea, we talked about this last year at her event, and KGR was floored. Remember? Yep. Folks literally have to go outside this city for good services. Craziness. And if you are considered a leader in the city and still can't get services for your child, what more for the average parent? What more? So every day, as council member president says, the school district has a budget of $4 billion every year, and every year they ask for more money. And he says $2 billion of that comes from city council. Oh yeah, we need an audit. You can't ask us for $2 billion every single striking year. What are we getting for this money that you're doing? And we're still not seeing the services, and you're closing schools and all the things that are going on. So it's just a lot. Laura says, this is all news to me. The stress on the providers and the underfunding of the programs is such a shame. You guys are doing a yeoman's work. And that's why, Laverne, always gonna, I'm just gonna always love and support you. Laverne, somebody wants to know where your daycare is located. Sharif El-Mekki is in the waiting room. Okay, Heavenly Make. Oh, girl, you talking and and typing. Good morning. Listen, Sharif El-Mekki is in the waiting room, and this is a conversation we're all looking forward to. Wait a minute. September 19th is Black Autism Awareness and Acceptance Day. If you want to plan, yes, Shamika, yes. Walk with me. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I love you all so dearly. Thank you, my darling. Have a good day. Okay. All right. Bye bye. Whoo! Now here's a conversation that I have been looking forward to. Let me just tell you. Play not. I'm going to let him in. Sharif El Mekki is the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development, an organization whose mission is to achieve educational equity and racial justice by rebuilding the national Black teaching pipeline. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Good to see
Can I just say this before we get started?
you. What you got?
I love me some you.
Oh, love you back. Appreciate you.
We have been having conversation now for well over a decade.
Hmm.
Well over a decade.
Oh yeah, easily over a decade.
Easily.
Yeah, yeah,
And you have stayed in the gap for children and families. You have stayed in the gap and holding folks accountable for making sure that we understand as educators what we need to do. And I'm calling myself as a part of this to make sure that the children not just come to us safely, but survive and thrive safely while they're with us. And
yeah.
so, thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about your conference. We're going to talk about what you're doing with your work now. But I truly, really wanted to have you on because you penned an incredible letter that I read word for word on my platform last Friday.
Mm.
Talk to me now about why you penned that particular letter and how apropos it is for the very beginning of the school year where teachers and staff are all coming back together for our children.
Yeah, I think two things. I think one was partly of guilt, and the other one was just of heartbreak. Um, I would say guilt. I didn't realize what was happening. A friend called me and said, "Hey, do you see? I saw that the football season was canceled, last year, and I just I was like, oh, I just assumed like, oh, kids were acting up and they canceled the season, but I
Mhm.
didn't think anything beyond that, and so when she calls me and says, "Hey, have you been paying attention to this?" I was like, "No, no." I was like, "I know the season was up." I was like, "The young men were probably acting up, and they were disciplined. They canceled the season." And she's like, "No, it's a lot deeper than kids
Yeah.
acting up." So then I started, so she sent me a link, to the Inquirer. I'm reading, and I'm like, "No, this is crazy." But then every article. This was right before the grand jury, where
Mhm.
the article, shared like what was going on in the grand jury.
Mhm.
And so then but now I'm like reading. I'm starting to like really look into it, and my heart was just broken, gut wrenching. Just like what, like how, like why, like how does something? And yes, the acts were horrific. You have this young man being assaulted in this way, in such a perverse way. You know, kids cheering him on, recording. But the idea that I think what really got me upset and gut wrenching was two particular pieces. One, after all of this, allegedly, an adult told the kid, "Don't tell your mom."
Mhm.
That just a lot of times, when you're seeing things, you picture yourself in the situation, you picture your own children, you picture, that kind of thing is really, like what, and I
Yeah.
think the second part, where the adults exchange texts like, yeah, yeah, mom was coming up here, but I got her not to come. Basically, rerouting her, like, nah, don't come up to the school, where
Mhm.
to me this is so
Mhm.
important. So like the
Mhm.
mother and the child who had already been, his rights and had already been violated. Both of that to be, to highlight on top of
Mhm.
that. I was like, I just felt like compelled to just say something.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
Sharif, why did you feel guilt? Tell me where the guilt was coming from.
the guilt was coming from.
being an adult in our communities and being unaware of, like, what happened. I think, and I think this it's a response to being unaware that someone was a young man. And I feel guilty a lot of times, like, just like, look, at the world's on fire. And we can't always do everything. In Islam, when there's a saying that if there's an injustice, you change it with your hand. You fix it, you address it. If you can't do that, speak out about it.
Mhm.
So if you can't, like, fix the situation, speak out about it and say, this is
Mhm.
injustice. If you
Mhm.
can't do that, then at least hate it in your heart.
Mhm.
I think the other side of that is it's also pushing us to be aware of, just like in Christian faith, like, know your neighbor. Like, you have no faith if your neighbor is hungry and you don't know, like, that's a blemish on you. You know what I mean? There's something wrong with that, and that's what I felt, and as a child.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I think can't necessarily, I don't work there. I'm not,
Yeah.
but at least speaking out about it and just saying, like,
Mhm.
this is wrong. And also, like, when I was part of it, as I was looking, I saw a lot of people, like, you know condemning, which is justified, but also wanted to point to, here are some things, some course corrections, some pivots, some
Mhm.
um reformations that should or could, ultimately. And again, a lot of times this stuff is hard because you're not in it. You don't know every single thing. You're doing it by articles
Mhm.
and third, fourth hand, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it's just like, just
Mhm.
in general, if I step back, here's at least what I think could happen.
Mhm.
Just from my experience, I've been a school leader for 16, 17 years.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to, make really hard decisions. And I
Mhm.
understand, I understand the complexities. Um, I understand, like, all the voices. You cancel a football season, for example. I got a letter like, hey, but they canceled the football season. I was like, yes, they did.
Mhm.
But if you think that's enough, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And if the other parts hadn't happened, maybe it would have been enough. Maybe
Right.
if the young men had been held accountable, maybe if the mom had been engaged, maybe if the boy had been not told, don't tell your mom,
Mhm.
maybe the football, that was the lesson. If it was like canceled, but also spoken about and discussed, and
Mhm.
the counseling and all the
Mhm.
things. But you got
Mhm.
coaches without clearances. You got moms being told not to come up here. You got the young man, don't tell your mom. You know what I mean? Like, yo, like,
Mhm.
what are we doing here?
There is a culture, we're talking about a culture in sports, but there's a culture in our lives around Black boys and particularly adult men, not just Black men, but adult men who have these hazing practices, to get into a fraternity or a sorority or to be a part of this or a part of that. And women are part of it too. How do we shift that culture? How can we shift that culture?
I mean, I think we can, and I think it's bigger than hazing. And I don't even know the race of the young man. I have no
I
idea.
do.
Okay, he
Mhm.
is a black boy. I
Mhm.
I had no idea.
Mhm.
The So yes, I think that, and one, I think that language is important. We hazing. If we call it hazing instead of the more popular, more understood word of bullying, I think that's one step. Because I think hazing has a little bit of a benign
Yes.
softness. Like, oh, it's
Mhm.
hazing.
Mhm.
But when you really look at it in reality, it's bullying. It's a power dynamic. It is,
Mhm. Mhm.
and when I thought about this situation, I thought about, like, how we would talk to our students about bullying,
Mhm.
and what is bystander culture
Mhm.
and versus upstander culture. And we
Mhm.
really try to get them to be upstanders and self
Mhm.
advocate, but advocate for your community too.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
can't advocate for your community outside, because we're always like, once you leave Shoemaker, once you leave Turner, once you leave Shaw Middle School, those are the three schools I was in. Once you leave, you have to continue and lead.
Mhm.
Well, if you're going to advocate for people outside on 52nd Street, on 60th Street, on Baltimore Avenue, on Woodland Avenue, and elsewhere in the city, in the state, in the country, in the world, that means you have to practice it in the locker room. You have to
Yeah.
practice it in the hallway. You have to practice it in the bathroom, right? And so, I think one, the bystander culture, pushing people to be advocates in their in proximity first, right? Like that's where you start changing things. You change things with
Mhm.
yourself, then your family and friends,
Mhm.
and then larger space. And so we can't ignore that. But I think hazing, one, you have to, people have to, wait a minute, what is hazing? Oh, what's the variance of hazing? Like, what's the continual? Oh, that's all right. Like,
Mhm.
yo, that's bullying. You
It
have
is bullying.
power and you're using it over someone else.
Mhm.
They are, it's not willing, usually. And if it is, sometimes it's because they want to be part of the group so bad. And
That
that
they.
also is not,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
also not free will at the optimal levels.
Absolutely. What do you say to people who say, but it's a part of who we are. It's a part of the institution of what we do. You're playing football. You want to be a part of the football team. You have to put you through your paces to make sure that you're a part of this. I want people to fully understand what this means. And also, it's been alleged it was a student that called the child care line and reported this. That says no one's talking about this in the school. I
Wow.
saw this happen.
A
So, to
student
your
called the
point
child.
about the upstander,
Man,
yes,
listen. I mean, that's wow.
yeah,
I mean, one, that's first time I was like, man, who raised that kid?
yes.
Who raised that kid? Like, who's in that kid's orbit?
Mhm,
Or where did the kid learn from? Sometimes kids just inspired to do things. Often
mhm, mhm,
there's some kind of way that's influenced. And
mhm.
so kudos to the child, the young person. I
Yeah.
think making sure, and I know I love playing football. Football, wrestling, track, martial
Mhm,
arts, um, and I'm grateful that we didn't experience that type of
mhm,
thing. And I
mhm.
think sometimes people are trying to prove so tough, but I think it will take a monumental effort, all right, because we live in a country that promotes that. We live in a country, as we was raised, you met my parents, they
Mhm,
they were like, they were very clear, like, hey, you know what? Here's bullying on a global sense,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
here's the power dynamic. Here is what this level of aggression is, and
mhm.
so be careful about what they promote when they are exporting this. Be careful about what they promote, internal, like that same strain, that same disease. Um, it's cheered on, and you see it. I remember when I was a history teacher. It's a small example, and it's different. People are like, oh, well, that's a war. This is it's a mindset. Mindsets matter most. That's what we tell our future teachers.
Mhm.
Mindsets matter most. How you feel about people, how you feel about when you have a level of contempt for people, it can happen. We see it in the classroom. We know educators that have contempt for the children that they serve,
Yes.
right? Like, and it's not called contempt, but that's what it is. They have, they detest maybe being there. They detest the community that's there. That
Mhm,
also happens on an individual basis,
mhm.
right? Like there's a level like, what, I don't like you so much that here's what, and it affects your humanity,
Yeah.
and so I think, as we part of sports and part of, let's just stick with sports. Part
Mhm,
of sports or any team, but I know, I'm not part of a lot of groups that you had to do some kind of initiation for.
mhm,
Well, part of it is about refining character. At least that's what our coaches would talk about.
mhm,
Also, yes, sports is fun. You want to compete. You want to,
mhm,
exert your will. All those kind of things. You want to challenge yourself and your teammates. but it's also about refining your character,
Mm-hmm.
right? And being in community with others, like
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So yeah.
You had some great suggestions. And I mean, I just kept reading it and reading it and reading it and reading it. You talked about when there's an injustice done in a building. Just let's juxtapose from sports to just being in the educational field, because I think a lot of educators, they're starting school, they're back to the school year.
Hmm.
You talked about, if something happens in your building, you must first think about the child and the family. That if a child comes to you and reports something, you don't wait 11 months, 10 months, and then send text messages across background telling people, well, I think I got rid of her, versus come on into the building. You, I find it often, and I'm not saying this lightly, Sharif, because I've been in the educational space for a long time,
Hmm.
that we think about the culture of the school district, the building, the harming of the framing of what could be said and should be said, so that we are considered a ribbon district, one of the best places to live, and we codify and keep outside anything that might quote unquote harm that. That
Hmm.
includes children who are harmed, families, etc. You spoke plainly about contacting the family, making sure that the child's voices have been heard, making sure that the resources are given to the family, and that all the way up to the superintendent, there should have been meetings and conversations versus not saying sorry. There was no apology whatsoever. Give us some give us some steadfast examples of what educators and families can do in this upcoming school year to protect themselves and the children they serve.
Yeah, I think, again, just the mindset and culture is important. And listen, culture is always going to be challenged. Kids are going to make mistakes. Adults are going to make mistakes. But I think, one, being engaging it directly. So here's an example. So if we, I'm trying to think of, if we had even just a fight, one, you're getting statements. Every kid in there, every kid in there, every child is sitting there by themselves
Mhm,
with adults writing statements. Every parent is met with and
mhm,
engaged.
mhm,
And there, we've had in the past where we had group parent meetings. Like, hey,
mhm,
your children, not just your child, your children,
mhm,
um, and bystanders were also accountable.
mhm,
Like, wait a minute, you filmed this, you saw this, and what were you trying to accomplish as you filmed this? What were you
mhm,
thinking as you saw your classmate being pummeled in this way? Like, really, having a child like reflect about like their action and inaction, right? Because this is
mhm,
also part of learning process, right? Like, what, how do you think, and empathy. Empathy can be, taught with most human beings, the vast
mhm,
majority of human beings. Empathy
mhm,
can be taught, because we'd also part of this, you know, part of investigation, conversation, teaching is also, how do you think he was feeling? How do you
mhm,
think his parents and family felt when they heard
mhm,
this? Right? We would ask students this, and a lot of times when it was appropriate, we'd have the child who was maybe the assaulter speak to the parent of with their parent there,
mhm,
but you need to speak to this community member. This is part of restoration. So when we
mhm,
talk about restoring,
mhm,
restorative justice and all, and nowadays, I see it sometimes when people are doing things. I'm like, that is not, restoration. That is not the, what the research, shows. But
mhm,
that kind of piece of healing, you know, and some of the students would have had disciplinary hearings. But then
mhm,
also, I remember there were many times when we would bring maybe entire grade to the auditorium, maybe the entire school, if it
mhm,
was something that needed to be addressed. And that would have been one of the things like, hey, we had something horrific happen in our
mhm,
community.
mhm,
Horrific. And in Islam, there's a word amana.
Mhm.
Amana means a trust. Children who are sent to our schools, they are an amana. They are a trust.
Mhm.
And if that trust is violated, then how do we rectify that situation? How do we acknowledge, apologize, and address? I mean,
Mhm.
there's the triple A's, right?
Mhm.
Acknowledge, apologize, and then address
Mhm.
so it doesn't recur. Or find, address the culture underneath, the subculture underneath, the currents underneath, the
Mhm.
holes, the misalignment,
Mhm.
the all of those things.
Mhm.
So yeah, and listen, this is complicated. I mean, being a school leader was both the most rewarding and most complex
Chanting,
job I
yeah.
had.
Mhm.
You have, I don't know the size of Cheltenham High School, but I know, I was usually in one of the smaller high schools. We had about
Mhm.
800 students. You have about 100 staff members. You have their families. You have community members. You have all of that. So you're talking about, like, in the course of a day, maybe engaging in some kind of way, even just with a smile and a handshake, a
Mhm.
thousand people. You're seeing that type of ecosystem nonstop, and I imagine Cheltenham's even bigger.
Mhm. It is.
um, and so the complexities that I remember, but also just the opportunity to inform, to shape, to love on, to support, to protect. At the end of the day, safety is, that is number one, because it's an emina. It's a trust. You protect the
Mhm.
trust.
Yeah.
Before you can grow it, you have to protect it.
Yeah, before you can grow it, you have to protect it. You always popping up some.
Yeah.
Before you can grow it, you have to protect it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you addressed what school leaders could do and should do. In the Carlene says the population is about 1,200 students at Cheltenham High
Well,
School.
I think yes. So what they can do is, one, set the bar. Like, what's the bar? What's the culture? What's the expectations? Um,
Hmm.
Being super clear about that. Here's what
Hmm.
we stand for.
Hmm.
Here's what we believe in. Here's what we will hold ourselves accountable for.
And if they're not super clear, if the bar and expectations aren't there, what can families and students do to protect themselves in a culture that's not conducive to their well-being and growth? Because let's you and I be clear, it happens all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the I think that's even more important, because those are individual conversations
Hmm.
that can be compounded within a school,
Hmm.
in a larger space. But I'd encourage families, and it reminds me to do this far more than I done. I think I've even been slacking off on this, but I know my wife does it, a lot, and that is role playing, scenarios. Because I think sometimes we say things, but the kid
Hmm.
hasn't really practiced. They haven't necessarily processed. Okay, if it does happen, or it looks like it's happened, or my friend
Hmm.
is going through this, how do I? And sometimes that's just a couple of questions a day or a week or whatever. But just sometimes, like, hey, what would you do if this happens?
Hmm.
What would you say if someone said this to you, or if someone did this, or someone, or a friend of yours was going through this? I think opening up the dialogue,
Hmm.
one of the things I would tell families, and this because I learned from my parents. Don't ask the kid how was school.
Hmm. Right.
Don't ask kids how was school.
Because he's just gonna say fine.
Fine. That you already know the answer usually. Most of the time the answer is gonna be, oh, it was fine, it was okay, it was
Hmm.
boring.
Hmm.
Really ask, other questions throughout the year, not just now, yes, before school, but throughout the year. Like, hey, when do you feel the safest?
Hmm.
Who's the adult that your kids trust?
Hmm.
And, that your friends trust.
Hmm.
If your friends have to tell someone something, or you have to tell something, who's the adult that you would go to? And these can just be casual conversations, but it's also
Hmm.
data collection, right? Because it's not
Hmm.
always that classroom teacher.
That's right.
It's not always the classroom teacher. It may be, a support staff. It may be the front desk staff. It may be, so many other folks. It may be another teacher, another,
Hmm.
And I think that was important, and also encourage them. Like, if they say, "Oh, nobody," that's another red flag.
Mhm,
For more probing.
mhm,
Um, and I think going up and as an engaged school, really asking like, "Hey, what is character development? What is the culture? What are you trying to accomplish in the school? How can
mhm,
we support?" Because one thing my mother used to say, and I keep bringing, Andre knows, but for your audience, my mother was a teacher.
mhm,
She's a community activist. She was, just she loved our people,
mhm,
and so she was always about like, what does justice look like, and how is justice felt? And justice could be this what
mhm.
looks like a very small thing,
Yeah.
but much bigger. And she would say like home and school. People say home and school, and it's a hyphenated word, and that hyphen could be as long as Broad Street
Mhm,
or Old
mhm,
York Road for the Cheltenham folk. It could be that long,
mhm,
or it can be actually non-existent, and it's
mhm,
one and the same homeschool,
mhm.
because they are so on the same page. And
Absolutely.
so asking the questions, as parents and family members and community members, even if you don't have a child. I don't have a child in Cheltenham High School, but Baldwin said they're all our children.
They are all our children. Yeah. Yeah. So you've gotten so instead of asking your children how was school today, you say things like who are the adults your friends trust? Who are the adults in the building that you taught? And to your point, our sons, my children went to Abington and they had a whole crew of friends there, and they would say Mr. So and oftentimes it wasn't the teacher.
It wasn't yeah, and you hear it, and again,
Yeah.
it's not always like, it's not. I don't want to frame it like it's always like, oh, something bad. It can be like,
Right.
hey, when do you feel the most challenged? Who,
Mm-hmm.
like, when do you feel most supported? Like, when do you struggle? Like, hey, what was the
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing you had to do today?
Mm-hmm.
What was the easiest? When was the
Mm-hmm.
last time you were embarrassed or nervous in school, right? Like this, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever we're saying, school, it could be camp, it could be in
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, it could be with
Mm-hmm.
family members. You know what I mean? It's like whatever,
Yep.
but just asking deeper questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we're in such a rush and we're trying to get here to there, and and we got
Mm-hmm.
a teenager who's like, already withdrawing a little bit from
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
so we have to push forward, push through that.
Push through
So,
that. All right.
hmm
I know you're a busy man and you have a whole schedule. Ken says this is such an important conversation. As a parent, my wife and I worked so hard to develop trust between our children and both of us because we wanted them to talk to us forever. He's
forever.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did something similar, Sharif, where I would say to my children, we can have one family meeting a month where you can come and talk about anything. You won't get in any trouble. It doesn't
hmm
matter what. And there were days when I would just sit there and grit my teeth, like, oh dear God, they told me, but I would listen. And
hmm
because they developed the trust with me at 34 and 30, guess what? They still call mommy
Yeah.
so and so and so and so and so if they're struggling with something. So that's great. It's a great way to do this. Taryn says, thank you so much for these great suggestions. She said, we needed to hear this. She says, thank you for giving us thoughtful, detailed list of suggestions for our district. It makes a difference. What happens when an educator is working with another educator or someone else in the building that just does not like children?
Mm. Yeah. You know what? I mean, there's not always things that you can do as far as, again,
Mm-hmm.
hand, heart, in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Uh, and look, I remember my first year teaching, and I was loving the school, the environment, the community, everything. I was just like, man, this is my call. This is where I was supposed to be, because I wasn't originally going to be a teacher. I was like, why would I do that? But once I did it, and I remember when an adult told me directly, I had to ask something, or I was excited, naive, just like,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, I'm like, yeah, I don't like kids. And I thought she was joking. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is an older, teacher, older sister. And I thought she was joking at first. Like, I don't like these kids, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for her to crack up or to
Mm-hmm.
smile or to wink or to, show her. true affection for the students of Turner. And when I saw the scowl, um, and
Mm-hmm.
then I noticed, oh, that's why you're always sending kids outside your class. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's why this is, what I mean. Like it helped me connect the dots. Wasn't necessarily anything I could do, but what I would do is just make sure I was teaching my blank off. You know what I mean? Just making sure that what they say in the nation. Sometimes you just put if it's a dirty glass and somebody's drinking a dirty glass. Sometimes all you got to do is put a clean glass of water next to them. Sometimes that's all
So they
you
can
all you
see
need
the
to do.
example.
Yeah,
Yes.
and for me, it was to make sure the students that I was responsible for
Mm. Yeah.
had an experience that was tied to educational, racial, and social justice.
Yeah.
Um,
The
and if
black
they
male.
can influence, great. This was an elder, this was a veteran. I was in first, so my influence with her wasn't going to be, but if there's a partner teacher, it's a team teacher, you can show them different things. You can, kind of do
Mm-hmm.
informal professional development.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's an article, maybe it's like inviting them to see your class, or
Mm-hmm.
it's so many things. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, we are supposed to advocate for our children in all kind of ways, and some of it is modeling what effective teaching
Looks like or
is.
can
Yeah.
be.
Hmm.
Yes. I know. Talk to me about your current role. Um,
Yeah. This
let's learn a little bit. And I know you have another conference because Shakila says that she's a presenter this year.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so, and this is interesting. I'm really just replicating what was done for me. I was on my way to law school when I met Dr. Martin Ryder. One, Mama Cynthia called me and said, "Hey, you know what? They're recruiting black men to teach." And I was like, Mama Cynthia, I don't want to be a teacher. She's like, go to the meeting anyway. And she was one of our mamas from, our community. So, we listened to our mamas.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and there I met Dr. Martin Ryder, who, interesting enough, I didn't know at the time. He worked in a program that my mother had entered teaching years and years before, through CCP, then
Mm-hmm.
Temple, and then teaching in the district. So I met Dr. Martin Ryder, and I left that meeting basically convinced that this is the purest form of activism was teaching black children well. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be, I had already, I think, formed my identity. I was going to be a community activist, but I thought I was going to do it through as being a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
and being a community lawyer. For the audience, my parents and my father had two cousins were in the Black Panther Party. So what I would, often think of as just the police brutality and bullying in another form, in our communities. And I wanted to, be on the legal side, but hearing Dr. Martin Ryder talk about teaching, the impact on youth and children and community,
Mm-hmm.
I was hooked. So. And so now today, I left my beloved school 7 years ago, and I wasn't one of those burned out principals who was just tired and I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
I was really compelled because we started having students who said, "Hey, I want to teach. Hey, I'm coming back." I remember I would have students like, "Yo, I'm gonna come take that principal chair." I'm like, "Hurry up! You can come have it." Nothing would make me more proud than one of my
Mm-hmm.
students saying like, "Hey, I'm ready to lead this school."
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, did hire. My last year we did hire my first alumni from Shoemaker to teach, and she's still teaching, algebra at Shoemaker years
Mm-hmm.
later. Um, but anyway, we started having students who are saying like, "Hey, we wanna become educators," which I think also speaks to the experiences that they were having at Shoemaker,
Mm-hmm.
where they could envision them coming back and leading classrooms of their
Mm-hmm.
own in that school. And but when I looked around, there were no programs. There were no formal programs for students to learn how to teach, to become teachers. And they wanted to go beyond helping with bulletin boards and grading papers.
Mm-hmm.
They actually wanted to understand what's the mindset of a teacher, like what's the thinking, what do they do, and have practice doing it. So we started doing that. We started, got a grant from Mastery Charter to do Freedom Schools one summer, And then we
Mhm.
partnered with Arcade. Speaking of Cheltenham, I think Arcadia, I
Yes.
guess, is in Cheltenham.
Dr. Lori. Mm-hmm.
And they partnered with us. They had a professor over there. I think he's still there, Dr. Mark Brassoff, and his
Mm-hmm.
team. And so he helped us design a course, basically teaching 101. Um, but really from a also from inserting a black framework of teaching and learning. Because
Mm-hmm.
often folks who learn how to teach, they learn about white educational theorists, white behavior theorists, white child psychologists, and then they're sent to black and brown communities. Like, all right, go teach using those tools and using theories of folks who a lot of them couldn't even envision black and brown kids being in public schools, to this degree, let alone, how to relate to them and so on and so forth. And it ignores, most teacher universities ignore who are the black researchers, black
Yes.
educators that we should be thinking about. Like, folks hear about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, they hear black history. He was a teacher and he was a
Mm-hmm.
principal and he trained teachers and principals. People don't know that, like what did
No.
Dr. Amos Wilson, child psychologist, say about the development of a black child? These are the things that people should be learning about in teacher colleges. This is what principals and superintendents, these are the frameworks that they should also be exposed to, but they're usually not. It's Horace Mann, John Dewey, B.F. Skinner, Piaget, Freud, all these folks, um, but not uh, black people, brown people, indigenous people. Other people besides Europeans thought about teaching and learning in schools. Matter of fact, it was black people who pushed this country to have public schools for
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's rarely studied and looked at and used. And then I think the other dynamic was most kids go through 13 years of education and are never, and no one shares with them, hey, here are the a few educational theories, frameworks, and here's the one we chose to educate you.
With.
Here's the one that we're using on you.
Mm-hmm.
Kids just go through it. Nobody talks to them about, like, here's how we're educating you. They know,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'm in this school, I'm going grade to grade, and that's we wanted students to wrestle with it. Same way it's called like methods classes. In college, we're like high school students can engage with this, and that's what basically Arcadia helped us do. Like, what are the theories and philosophy? What does it mean to unlock learning?
Mm-hmm.
And we believe high school students can wrestle with that, even if they don't necessarily want to be a teacher. We wanted them to design courses for them to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
we ended up. It was so funny. We actually had tried to get this program in Cheltenham for years. It never worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But this course now is ninth through 12th grade, and again, it's not just for this 14-year-old who knows they're going to be a teacher. It's really about the history of teaching from a black perspective, black pedagogical framework, a black
Mm-hmm.
historical lens. And when kids learn, like, oh yeah, they heard about Ida B. Wells maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
when they realize, oh, she was a teacher before she became a full-time journalist, and
Mm-hmm.
she was advocating, just like she was fighting against lynching. Before
Mm-hmm.
that, she was fighting for black children.
Mm-hmm.
When Dr. Martin Luther King, maybe they read that, Dr. Martin Luther King hired Septima Clark to do trainings, and including Rosa Parks. Septima Clark was a teacher who was fired in South Carolina for pushing for higher salaries for black teachers. So she ended
Wow.
up being fired. When they learned that Dr. Martin Luther King's own mother was a classically trained teacher, she went to a HBCU. She was a teacher. She was originally let go because, back then in a lot of places, women, once they got married, they were fired basically because they didn't want anyone potentially pregnant in front of students. It's ridiculous,
What?
right? But understand, like, yeah, as a woman in this country, you would be fired, you would be let go, laid off if you got married because they had this kind of weird puritanical, so to speak, viewpoints, and just like,
Mm-hmm.
no, if you're
Mm-hmm.
barefoot and pregnant, not in front of kids, it may all kind of craziness. But
Mm-hmm.
children don't know, like, the history of education. They're in it, you're
Right.
part of history, but you have no idea,
Right.
like, what is school, what is education. After the Civil War, 5,000 schools were built by black communities, white philanthropy, but black labor and black philanthropy. So anyway, we wanted students to learn all of these. So we're grateful now. We're in 3 states plus Washington D.C. This fall will be 15 schools, and so we're talking about hundreds. And one day we hope thousands of youth learning this, even if they don't become teachers, they'll be aware. But the other part of our job is to, those who take this course and then are interested in teaching, we want them to be as debt free as possible when they become teachers. We want them to be supported. If they're interested in teaching, they might be their only one in their teacher college. We have a young man, Amir, he went to Westchester. When they send pictures of their graduating class, it was Amir plus one other young man, two men of color in their entire, class. And so we wanted to address that isolation, and we also wanted to support them, academically, socially, but also financially. So the students who take the course, they end up and they want to be fellows. They apply to the fellowship. It's very competitive, but those who enjoy, they also get it's a $40,000 investment.
Oh,
20K as they matriculate through college, and then once they get to their fifth year of teaching, they get a $20,000 retention stipend.
that's amazing.
And just to pay down your debt if you have
Yes,
it, invest in something if you need it.
right.
Use it as a down payment, like it's theirs. And so we just thought those are kind of things that were important. Like, what
Mhm,
are supports that people need? And people, often be like, I want to be a teacher, but it's expensive to become a teacher. You
mhm,
usually need to keep going through your masters,
mhm.
and you might not have the highest starting salary as
Right,
some of your peers. And so, we can't do everything, but we're like, what, if they're debt free, even if someone else has a higher salary, they may have higher debt. So if you're
right.
debt free, and after you've shown that you can really impact children in this kind of way, what does it mean? How about we raise funds just to give them $20,000? Do financial literacy. Hey, you got to pay your taxes on this.
Mhm,
Can't spend it all, like
mhm.
but it is there. And so we have right now we have 235 of these fellows,
Wow,
around the country, which we're super excited.
wow.
And that is
You
one of the
grew this
reasons.
thing. You grew this thing from 2019 to now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been a definitely, you know, it's been enjoyable. It's been complicated, because what you end up doing is working with a lot of different institutions.
Mhm,
It reminds me of, like, I didn't want to leave a classroom to become an administrator, and I remember, one of my mentors like, "Hey, you're doing fantastic with this container, but we need you to have impact on multiple containers, like
mhm,
more classrooms than just your own." Now I feel that it's the same way. I wasn't ready to leave Shoemaker, but because we got a grant to do this, and we had already piloted it with our own students, and it was
mhm,
popular, it was just like, you know
mhm,
what, maybe we could do this with more schools, not
mhm,
just Shoemaker. So I'm
mhm.
I'm I'm grateful. The team is amazing. The support has been amazing. And yeah, we're trying to just get into as many diverse high schools as possible. And I think the third component is our freedom schools, which we have each summer.
Yes.
Now we have had Cheltenham kids participate as high school, college, as well as youth. So that's practice for students, high school and college students, teaching first, second, and third graders in
Mhm,
the summer is a joy to see. And it's and they learn how to build trust quickly. It's only
mhm,
they have training for a couple weeks. They're only with the elementary school students for 5 weeks. And so
mhm,
one of the things is, like, how do you build trust quickly? This is day one. How do you build trust with the family who's dropping their kids off? We're making a promise. They're
mhm,
giving us their amana,
mhm.
and we are saying, like, hey, we're going to support them in their literacy, with their positive racial identity development, their culture, some kind of social justice project. Like, how do you do that within 5 weeks? Um, and so Freedom School, is built off SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And where Charlie Cobb, initially they were down south getting people registered to vote, and Charlie Cobb said, hey, you know what? These children are getting sharecroppers education, and while we're getting their parents and grandparents registered to vote, we need to make sure we're doing something for these children. So
Mm.
it's one of my favorite letters ever. Charlie Cobb wrote to the SNCC leadership, and then they started establishing freedom schools. So we are the great grandchildren model of that original model of, like, what are you doing for youth? What are you doing for the children?
If someone wants to be engaged in this with you, they want to be a part of the freedom schools to teach students, they want to become a fellow, where do they go to do all of this?
Oh yeah, you know what? They should sign up for our newsletter as announcements come out. We're wrapping up this round of fellows. We'll bring on 80 fellows to get to that 235. So they start this fall, and we're going to keep raising funds. And we raise the funds, and then we open up the application. So, so far we've been able to raise $9 million for these 235 fellows. So feel really blessed to be able to be in a position to support these youth, and that doesn't count the freedom school. And freedom school's paid, so we raise funds to pay high school students. We're like, hey, you want a summer job? You're interested in youth. You're interested in, and it's not summer camp.
Mhm.
It is, we ask researchers what could a 10th grader do to support their third grade sibling in reading over
Mhm.
the summer. And so early literacy specialists help us design and choose and write curriculum that
Mhm.
support that dynamic. And we want them to pay. We don't. It's not a volunteer job. It's a summer job. It is a paid teacher apprenticeship. We call it. We're on all the social media platforms at Center Black Ed. And then our website is www.thecenterblacked.org. That's www.thecenterblacked.org.
Or
Easiest way to remember if folks are like driving or whatever, you put in we need blackteachers.org,
then it'll show up. It
it'll
will
show
show
up.
up.
And that's what our high school students have said. They were like, you
Yes.
know what, we need black teachers. We're like, that's so dope. We're gonna use that as our tagline. So they,
Yes.
they
We need black teachers out of
yeah.
Sharif, you've given us a lot. I've been writing furiously as you're talking. So if you see my head
I
down,
feel like I'm talking too much, but
no, no,
all right,
no.
no,
I'm
go
writing
ahead.
furiously because people are just these are the things that we needed to have a discussion about. Talk to us about the convening. Where is it being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
held,
So
etc.
yeah, and I should have probably started that. So we, launched the Center for Black Educator Development, and our mission is to rebuild a national Black teacher pipeline. After Brown versus Board of Education, thousands, tens of thousands of Black teachers were fired. And this was all the way up in through the '70s. Like there were Senate hearings in 1970s to hear about how districts were basically firing highly qualified Black educators. Still all the way through the '70s. So
Hmm.
Brown versus Board was in the '50s, all the way through '70s. Black teachers were still being laid off, fired, not
Hmm.
hired, etc. Often far more qualified than
Hmm.
the white counterparts.
Still happening today. I'm sorry to say.
Listen, a thing in motion stays in motion until something really, really interrupts or stops it. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, that hasn't happened.
Hmm.
And so we want to rebuild a national Black teacher pipeline, but we started early. But we have said that pipeline has to be insulated and supported by three pillars. And so we do a lot of policy and advocacy around Black educators, the history, like what's going on, policies that impact negatively. We do the pathways that I described. That's the teaching
Hmm.
academy, the course, the freedom schools, the fellowship. But then we also have professional development, because again, mindsets matter most, and after mindset is skill level, and then the will to hold
Hmm.
yourself accountable, and to be the best educator possible. So our convening, Black Men Educated Convening, actually predates this organization.
Hmm.
It was something we started in basically 2014. We started just meeting
Hmm.
with a group of young men educators,
Hmm.
who wanted community because often they may be the lone and lonely in their school. They may have been the only one. And
Hmm.
so we pulled them together. And we did that for a year. And then after a while, they were like, hey, I got a friend who also wants to join.
Hmm.
We would meet at 48th Street Grill, would host us once a month
Hmm.
for dinner down in West Philly.
Hmm.
And so we did that. October 2015 was our first convening.
Hmm. I remember
Um,
that one. Mhm.
yep. And so, it was great. I remember it was pouring down rain. I was like, man, people aren't going to come out here. It was a Thursday night pouring. One of them storms like we've been
Mhm.
having recently.
Mhm.
150 people showed up.
Mhm.
And we're like,
Mhm.
wow, that's amazing. And I remember it was like, all right, let's go back to our monthly dinners. And I remember Dr. Height was like, no, y'all can't, because he's the one that's like, what's next, El Mike? I'm like, oh, we're going back to our dinners. This is cool, but we got work to do. He's like, nah. He's like, look, we need y'all to continue this. The districts can't do everything. We need partners like you all to do this. So at that time, we weren't even a formal organization. So after that, we decided, okay, let's see what this can look like if we do it seriously. So we got our C3, blah blah blah, and then we were doing those quarterly. Often in either in a school or in the school district for Philadelphia School District's headquarters on Broad Street.
Mhm.
In 2016, carload of young men drove up. We were at this year. This time it was High School of the Future was hosting us. Carload of young men pull up, and I'm at the door greeting everybody. Oh, where you from? Which school you work at? Because it had grown from New York to DC. It was kind of an
Mhm.
East Coast thing. They're like, oh, we drove up from Tennessee.
Ain't that something?
I was like, what? For
Thank
this? Are you crazy? Like, I hate driving. I hate long rides. So I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, we just got back from Pittsburgh. Our flight was canceled. So we ended up driving back from Pittsburgh. I'm like, man, this is going to be a long ride.
Really?
And that's just 4 hours, So from Tennessee, I'm like, what? But, that really pushed my thinking, our thinking to just like, wait a minute, this is something that could really be
Yes.
more of a national support because what
Mhm.
young black men what black educators were experiencing, not just the young ones, black educators were
Mhm.
experiencing, particularly black men. For those who
Mhm.
don't know, 1.6% of public school teachers in this country are black men. 1.6%. So less than 2% of all public school teachers, when you put them all together, it's over 3 million public school teachers in this country. 1.6% of them are black men.
Wow.
And if you take out the gym and music teachers, that number
Mm.
drops even more. So, to
Wow.
find a black chemistry teacher, black man chemistry teacher, black man English algebra
Mhm.
teacher, it's
Mhm.
the rarity.
Mhm.
So anyway, we're just like, let's continue these convenings. And
Mhm.
that ended up being 2017 was our first national convening.
Mhm.
So we have like kind of two timelines. One, October 1, 2015. So it's, last year was a decade of that, but we really
Mhm.
started counting the national one as
Mhm.
well. We only took off 1 year for the pandemic. And
Mhm.
so this is our ninth annual National
Mhm.
Black Male Educator Convening. And it's called Black Male Educator Convening. That's how it started, but it's open to everyone. We have
Yes.
sisters presenting in the audience, etc., facilitating workshops, main stage, all the things. We
Mhm.
we go nowhere without our sisters anyway, and that's who taught me how to teach.
Mhm.
My instructional coaches and mentors were black women, and they made me fall in love with pedagogy. I was in love with the activism and this idea.
Yes.
It was Yvonne Savior and Tanya Corbett and
Mhm.
Kathy Lee, three black women who taught me how to teach. How made me
Yes.
fall in love with the science and
Mhm.
the art, but very particular the science of
Science of
of
teaching.
teaching. Yeah, like
Yeah.
what does it mean to help a youth from a pedagogical
Mhm.
lens, the intellectual development.
Mhm.
It was fascinating to me. It was as
Yeah.
fascinating as like a honeybee hive. You know what I mean? Where I'm always like, wow, look at this. Like that's how teaching, became for me. So anyway, so yeah, this is the ninth one. It's October, oh, no, November 13th through the 15th. We're grateful. Every year it's sold out. Every year we have a wait list. So we actually moved hotels this year. So we're at the Lowe's,
Yeah.
and they had a cap of 1,400, and so we're
Mhm.
moving over to the Marriott.
Wow.
So was a little sad, because you had to raise the prices when you go to the Marriott,
Oh.
and I didn't want to do that, but we couldn't afford not to. But yeah, it's super
So
super
it's sold
exciting.
out again this year
No,
already?
not yet. It usually no, it's no November. It usually sells out in the early fall. So no,
Okay.
the tickets are still available.
And they
Every
go to the website for the tickets?
Yep, and go on the website. There's a tab specifically for BMEC, the centerblacked.org. Um, yeah, it's been my favorite part. I have two things that I love about the convening, and even if I wasn't part of the organization, the reasons why I would love it, I think is one, it's intergenerational. Often you go to these ed conferences, we're talking about kids.
Mhm.
Our kids are there, our youth are there. So,
Yep.
it's one of the few educational conferences where you'll see dozens of high school youth, college youth, and the veterans, and the OGs, and the
Yep.
retirees. It's that ecosystem of community. And I remember, the other favorite part of it's just how we show up and love on each other when there's not the pressure
Hmm.
and oppression and
It's
biases
a
and
it's a
all of that.
fantastic environment to be around. They look so free.
Yeah, yeah. And the hotel staff, I remember when they first came in. Now it would happen every year. Different staff members they come up to me and they were like, "This is our favorite conference," and they host conference all the time. And I remember I was like, "Why? Why is this your favorite conference?" They're like, two reasons. One, we at conferences they're usually pretty stuffy, and we don't see people loving and greeting and hugging
Hmm.
all day long. Just that kind of engagement.
Yeah.
As if they know each other, but it's 40 states are represented. We have delegations. We've had delegations from Germany, where they're like, yeah, y'all complaining about, you're, 7% of public school teachers are black. They're like, it's less than 1%, black. So they're like, it could always be worse, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it could always be better too. That's what we're working on.
Yeah.
But 40 states represented, that kind of thing. But then also like it's community. You can feel that. And they said the
Hmm.
second thing they love is how well the, the service staff are treated. They're like, we don't hear this many thank yous and smiles and
Hmm.
I thought I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like they, you know what I mean? Like that's yes, we're guests, but often we're raised, we know how to act as guests.
Absolutely.
And we show gratitude to those
Hmm.
serving food or whatever, right? And so it was interesting because I'm like, that's also part of our culture,
Hmm. Hmm.
so
Hmm. So, two questions. Katie, I know who she is. She says, "Are you all still accepting need volunteers?"
we are probably full on volunteers.
I know
We use
you don't have a problem. Let me. Can I just? I came one year, and I'm in the Lowe's, and I'm saying, and black men are the most beautiful creatures on the planet. Sharif, I just kept looking. I met people from Texas. I met people, and I just kept talking to them. I was interviewing them and writing articles. It
Mhm,
was the most fulfilling thing. And to hear them discuss how they look forward to this, because it's the place where they not only find acceptance, they learn all kinds of tools about what they can do in the upcoming school year, tools to keep their mental health in a safe space, because
mhm,
man, some of those stories, the things that they've had to experience, being called to the principal, being called by your union simply for just showing up for a child, doing the work. I've heard it all.
mhm.
And it's a lot. I'm sad that you're not taking volunteers, but I'm gonna figure out a way to get in there. Bring me in as a parent to talk about
Well,
what
well, I mean, don't forget. I mean, you have, and Mimi's just waiting to, you have a press pass, so that's
yeah,
different. So yeah,
yeah,
but they usually have, we have a group of volunteers that are, that we use it. But I'll,
yeah.
I'll definitely ask about the volunteer. We are going to a bigger hotel, so I didn't think
Yes, you,
about that,
you
but
may. Okay.
yeah,
And then
but
and then someone says, does Sharif have books or resources for teachers who want to learn and implement this framework? Careful what you wish for. Here we go. What books do you have that people can read?
yeah, I mean, if I would say to start off with a couple things, one, two books. If you're just like, what's the mindset and the kind of pedagogical framework, orientation, worldview of successful Black teachers? Um, three, three people. One, Dr. Michelle Foster. Um, I think her exact title is Black Teachers on Teaching. um, Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, Overbrook High School grad, our past keynote at BMAC, and then the third one is Lisa Delpit, Other People's
All
Children.
women.
Yeah, three Black women. And then if you're looking at the history of like kind of educate, just like what's the Black educator experience,
Hmm.
here's another three. One is the education of Black people in the South, Dr. James Anderson, Education of Black People in the South, um, Fugitive Pedagogy, Dr. Jarvis Gibbons.
Say that second one again for me,
Yeah,
please.
Fugitive Pedagogy.
Jesus.
And it really tells the story of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, but also just the landscape in general. And he has other books. Like once you see that, you'll see the other books that he's also written. But I would start
Okay.
with that, and then Vanessa Siddle Walker, The Lost Education of Horace Tate. And these, I would say, these are books that everybody should read, but particularly if you're an educator, aspiring
Mhm.
educator, or
Mhm.
parent
Mhm.
of a child going to school, like
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Community
Mhm.
educators as well as formal educators. So those are like the six books that I believe every family, but particularly black household should have, read, understand. Because again, our children go through these 13 years,
Yes.
and like what does it mean, right? Like it's so little known. We think we know because we all went through those same 13 years of
Yes.
pre-K to
It's
12th
so
grade.
different.
No, like education is politics.
Yeah.
It
And
is a
Carla wants to know, when are you going to write your book? He's so
uh,
busy working.
listen, Tucson, I don't know if I've had time to write. uh, Listen, I- I've been working on a book. One, my friend Ayana, when I was like 22, she's like, "You need to write a book," and I was like, "Anybody who's 22 writing a memoir is a jerk. I'm not writing no. But she's like, "Listen, you're the child of two Black Panther Party members and
Yes.
two cousins. You went to Nithamu Sasa, which was our elementary freedom school, year-round freedom school.
Mm-hmm.
Then you moved to Iran, and now you're back. And you graduate college, you get a full ride, and then you get shot right after you graduate. Left for dead, and now you're a teacher. That's a book." I was like, I'm 24, 23. I'm not
You did
writing a
all of
book.
that by the time you were 24?
Yeah, that was all. Yeah, I became a teacher right before I turned 22. So yeah, all that was before by 21. Um, And so anyway, so about a decade ago, tried to start one. I had a contract and everything. Then I had to beg them to let me out and not sue me because I was like, "There's no way in the world I'm going to meet this deadline." So I just kind of just gave up. Maybe when I retire, I'll
No, it'll
go to
make
a
you relive
cabin and
this.
start writing something. But you know,
I'm
maybe
I'm
one day.
sitting here trying to type in the books because they were like, "Can you put them in?" The Education
Oh
of
yeah,
Black Men, Dr. James
oh yeah,
Anderson.
yep. Education of Black people in the South. I'll say them
Oh,
again. Education of Black people in the South.
Black people in the South. Hold
hmm
on.
That is, it's a
People
thick,
in the
dense, well
South.
researched, but easy to read.
Okay,
Um,
and that's Dr. Anderson, right?
yep, Dr. James Anderson.
Okay,
Um, Fugitive Pedagogy.
I did the Fugitive
y-
Pedagogy. I did that
Yep,
one. What was the other
yep,
one?
Jarvis Gibbons. And the other one is The Lost Education.
I have written it down on my
Oh, no
own
worries.
notes before.
Of Horace Tate.
Of who?
Horace Tate.
TATE.
Tate. And
Uh
that's
huh.
Vanessa Siddle Walker. And you know what? I'd be remiss. I have one more that tells a local story that I think is really important.
Okay.
Dr. Kamika Royal's book.
Okay. What is
She's
her book?
also, Philly, born and raised. Um, and what is the title of her? I'll send it to you. I'm blanking on the exact.
Exactly. Because you must have read 1,000 books. You know which one sat with me? Have you had a conversation with her, cast the origin of our discontent? That has taught me
Mm-mm.
so.
What's in? Say that. You
Isabel
gotta say that one
Wilkerson.
again. Say that again.
Cast the origins of our discontent. Man, Isabel Wilkerson.
Oh, I know that. I know her name. She
You
has.
have
She has the
this
other.
black author. She is amazing. So she covers the journey of bias and culture, but in a story form. My God, it's like a Bible because I mark it. Like you can see where all of this stuff comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think every educator, every parent, every human being needs to read this book, so we know where why things happen the way they do and how we respond to them. Because here's the other thing, and I'm so sorry I'm keeping you on this long, but you're so
No, no, no.
good.
It's fine. It's fine.
Sharif, the cortisol levels in our bodies from the constant stress, the constant micro and macroaggressions. What And I know you're eating snails and alligators and all the other things, and you're farming all the stuff. What do we need to do? What can we do to help our bodies decompress from the constant negativity that we face all the time?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that wellness piece is so important. It's definitely
Mhm.
something that I used to ignore. I'm like, they soft, they need to toughen
Yeah.
up, and all of that. And I do think some people go too much from uh, self care to self absorption. But I think the middle ground is really like, what does being whole mean? And understanding that we have different dimensions. So
Mhm.
and I think from a spiritual sense, it's like you have your body, you have your soul, you have your spirit. Like all of those
Mhm.
have to be tended to.
Mhm.
And when there's disarray, when there's misalignment, then that can affect us mentally, physically, spiritually. And so if we
Mhm.
look at ourselves as dynamic beings, then we have to pay attention to that's a listen. I'm Dr. Greg Carr's student, so I'll never be Philly's version. First, Dr. Carr is Philly's version. I know he from Tennessee, and I know he working at Howard. He is Philly. Those who don't know, Dr. Carr was
Mhm.
responsible. Obviously with a coalition. Nobody
Mhm.
does this activist work by themselves, but
Mhm.
he was a leader in not only establishing freedom schools here in
Mhm.
Philadelphia with Dr. Imani and Dana King
Mhm.
and many others. But he was also in charge of the social studies department at the school district of Philadelphia for years. So
Mm.
we claim him as Philadelphia's. I'm just a student of Dr. Carr, but
Jamaicans would absolutely love you. There's a confidence with humility, but I loved your mother. I remember meeting your mother for the first time, and she was so excited. And I was like, why? She says, oh my God. And we hugged and we talked. I still don't know why your mother was so excited to meet me, but I so loved and enjoyed her.
yeah,
I
she had
could
heard you
tell.
speak. She knew. My mom loved those who love children and youth, and she used to say like America hates children.
Mm-hmm.
And she firmly believed that. And not just black kids, all like she's
All
like, if they
children.
hate their own kids, they're gonna hate yours.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way this society is structured, like the most vulnerable, the elderly and the youth, have little protections. You can have Epstein Island protected at the highest level. Like to me, that just shows like when you can have mass shootings. Arnie Duncan, former U.S. Secretary of Ed, used to say that he's like, "Oh, I knew we weren't going to have any gun reform after I forget the name of the. I don't
in
know what I'm
in
putting.
in uh in Connecticut, where all those little white babies were
Yeah,
shot and killed, and
yeah,
nothing changed.
yeah. And it's like I knew at that point that if that couldn't make them, the
Mhm,
powers that be, these were their children for the most part,
mhm,
and their perpetrator. And so how they feel about ours.
mhm,
This society that will use black babies as bait.
mhm,
The sickness. In this society where people will father children and then sell them.
mhm,
You
mhm,
father a child and then you still look at that. Oh, that's my property to sell.
mhm,
Is like that's the psychosis. And when if mindsets matter most, um, and that kind of soil. You imagine a tree. A tree is the roots are tearing up the foundation of your house,
mhm.
right? And you know it, but you say, you know what? I'm going to prune the branches to fix it.
Yeah,
That's what we do in this country. All
yeah,
our efforts are usually we're pruning branches, ignoring the roots. Those roots still exist.
yeah.
Um, the roots and that impact are still exist, and so this is why I think the work in activism and defiance
Mhm.
to societal norms sometimes is absolutely called for and worthy of our best efforts.
Thank you for that reminder. I am vociferous and continue to call out the behaviors as it applies to harming children and the elderly. Those two
Yeah, well,
groups.
that's why my mom was excited to meet you.
Oh, those two groups play not with me. I'm telling you, I hear it and I'm coming. So, Sharon says I was driving, so couldn't comment. First, I love Sister Aisha, a beautiful spirit and awesome teacher, and I see her in you,
Y'all
sir.
gonna make me
Second,
cry
I
right
love
now,
what you're
bro.
doing for Black male, and you love your mama. You oh I know. I know. I
Yeah,
would see with her all the time.
the
All the
world has
time.
not been the same for me,
Oh,
man.
I know.
It's
I know, I know, but she is proud. She's now an ancestor, and you are doing the darn thing. I need to apply for my pass, right? My press pass.
I'll tell Mimi to connect with you.
Okay,
I
listen,
probably got
don't
to log off, Andrea.
I
I'm
know, I
sorry.
know. I know, I know. Oh, Sharif, no.
I miss my mama.
Oh, I miss mine too. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to trigger.
No,
It's
sometimes just
it's a lot. It's a lot. We're going to have coffee. We can talk about our mamas because I miss mine too. When I talk to her every day, and your mother talks to you all the time in the work that you do every single day. It was not my intention to make you
no,
cry, but
no, it's
know
fine.
this,
Well,
Sharif,
it's
you're
fine.
doing the work. You're doing the work. Your mother was proud while she was standing beside you. Your mother is even more proud
Yeah,
seeing what you're doing and what you have accomplished. And your children and your wife, everybody in your orbit is doing the work,
yeah,
right?
no, yeah. I probably need to, I probably, yeah, I gotta. My wife mentioned her the other day, and I
Yeah.
had an episode,
Have you been to
so
therapy at all?
no,
Yeah. That's what saved me. I had to go to therapy because I actually, Sharif, at one point I got so angry, I stopped talking to everybody in my family. Cause I miss my mother and I still miss her. And I'm not gonna cry. You will not have me on here crying with because it is hard. It is not easy to
yeah,
continue the path that they put us on. But guess what? They gave birth to us, and there's a reason why we're here. And we will who I'm gonna have to log off. There's a reason why we do what we do,
yeah,
right? Every single day. There's a reason why we stand up for social injustice. There's a reason why we take the hits and the bullets and the targets that come because
think,
we were
yeah,
raised by beautiful women who taught us to do what we needed to do.
yeah, no
And
doubt,
you're gonna
no
be
doubt,
okay. You're gonna be
no
okay.
doubt.
I'm
Yeah.
sending you so much. Everybody's saying that she's with you and so proud. Yeah, she is. She is. How many years has she been going now, Sharif?
Uh, 6 years this fall.
See?
Yeah, this
See?
fall.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
mine's been gone for 3 years. And baby, let me tell you, ooh, here you go. And you know, the next time I see him, I'll bop you in your head, right? But
Yeah.
it's good. I'm gonna say with your wife, therapy. You wanna need some therapy. You wanna need some therapy.
Yeah.
Marguerite says you are
I used to poo poo that so much, but you're probably right.
oh
You're
no, I'm
probably
not
right.
probably right. I'm telling you, otherwise I'd be a basket case running around here. Marguerite says you're doing the continuation of your mom's legacy. Therapy
Mhm.
will definitely help. Black men often don't see the value of it, yet it helps tremendously. And remember, you are therapy for thousands of people. Thousands of people. Figure out and you can't and your therapy can't come from just anybody.
Yeah.
So that was the most difficult part. Alexandra says, light a white candle and invite your mother to join you on your day. Oh,
Hmm.
look, they're just loving you. They're just loving when
No,
you
I
see
appreciate. Yeah. I mean, birthdays for me have always been about your
them.
mama. So like
Yeah. Yes.
we didn't really celebrate birthdays. But she was like,
Yeah.
"What did you do on your birthday?" Like, it's the mom that actually was doing all the work on your birthday, but you celebrate you. So
Yeah.
I've always like just felt like
Yeah.
birthday was a day to celebrate our
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Shakira says, honestly, though, this is cathartic to see. Our people need to see this vulnerability. Thank you for that. I know it's hard for you, but thank you. Right? We always show up just tough and strong, and everything is everything, and
Yeah.
it hasn't been easy. Shakila says, please don't poo poo therapy. Listen to these black women. We
Yeah, no,
couldn't be
I
here for you
stopped
as
doing
black
it.
women.
Yeah, no, but I haven't. Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
again mindsets. I really have to change my mindset about. I used to be like,
Yeah.
they get paid to just sit and listen to people talk. Like, go to your grandma's house and
I
they'll.
said the same thing,
I
Sharif,
just
but
it
I'm
was just
telling
hard for me
you.
to wrap my mind. I'm like, what kind of training do you? That how are you gonna help? What I mean, it's just like how do you build the
Yes.
trust? All of that. It's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been really hard for me to wrap my mind around it. But
Yeah.
over the years, I've definitely softened my
Yeah.
I think before I was hostile toward. Now I think I
Yeah.
got to like indifferent. Like, all right, if that works for you, great, just go do it. But I think
Yeah.
I'm at the point like, you know what, it may be something I need to engage
Yeah.
with. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And guess what? You're helping a ton of people just from that vulnerability. Leroy says 8 years ago, my whole worth returned to the essence. No love like a mother love. I do speak to a therapist. Yeah. I
Hmm.
couldn't, I have to tell you transparently, I could not function. I would get on the air and just start crying. I would go outside and I cried for a year straight,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single day. I don't cry every day now, but I talk to her every day. You know, as I'm facing this stuff, I'm like, Mom, this country is going to hell in a handbasket. Sharif, how are we navigating all this stuff that's happening around us, around the world? Jamaicans are saying that they're being forced to cancel their ties with Cuba and that they have to leave, otherwise they're going to face tariffs from America. Do you understand? Yes, you do. I shouldn't even ask you that question. Do you
Hmm.
know how impossible it feels to be in our skins at this particular point
Yeah.
in life?
Hmm. Yeah.
And if
And so
we
often
did,
we become robot. We compartmentalize. Like I've been really good, but my mother dying in 2020, that broke my compartmentalization a little bit, or at least frayed it. Um, where before I could like just, you know, I'm black man Muslim in America, right? Like so, it's just like this entire, and I try to be as conscious as possible, right? And so
yeah,
and aware and connected and have a global perspective, a Pan African perspective, all
mhm,
those things. And yeah, it's hard. It's
yeah,
hard,
I know.
especially to
It's
do it with still with your chin up, it's hard,
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I love you. You know I love you. I've always loved you.
I
I've been
love
in
you
your
back.
school 1,000 times. I think I
Yeah,
covered I was your keynote 2 years in a row. I put the
3 years, 3 years in a
3 years
row. I
in a row.
think, yeah.
Yeah, love. I love young people, and for that reason alone, and so many others, I just thank you. And you have a daughter, one of the younger babies, not the youngest one, but the second to the youngest one. That reminds me so much of myself as a child.
Mm,
Y'all are in for
mm.
a treat.
Nice, nice. I love it. Yeah, she giving us that treat left and right. Let me tell you. So it's a blessing.
Every
Amina.
time you post about her, I was like, whoa. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you
No,
so
thank
much.
you. Appreciate
Oh,
you. Love you back, and I'm
yeah.
looking forward to the coffee.
Yes, sir. We
Yeah.
will have it soon, and I'll see you also at the convenience. But we're going to do coffee before that. Sharif El Mekki, everybody. Thank you
Oh,
so much,
thank
my
you.
brother.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good one.
you. Thank you to the audience. My
Yeah.
apologies
No, don't
for
you dare apologize.
yeah.
Don't you dare. It's all a part of who we are and why we are the fabric of what makes us. So don't apologize. They got
Okay.
everything naturally from you from this interview today, and we're going to be all right. And you probably helped somebody this morning who thought they couldn't cry.
No.
All right. All right, my
I
brother. Take it
appreciate it.
easy.
Be well. Okay.
We will.
Talk
You
soon.
too. Bye bye.
Peace.
All right. I need to get off the air. Seeing him cry just I don't even we talk, you all have helped me to walk through I've gone through two different therapists since my mother died. Um it has been not easy when you are close to your mother as he was and as I was. Not everybody has that relationship with a parent. But when you're as close, listen, my mother used to call me and tell me I was ugly. And then she would pinch me and all the things. But the amount of love and grace and the way she taught me is the way I grew up to be the person that I am today. It's the same with Sharif. I would see him, his mother was always there. Always. She was just as sweet and as kind and as loving, and taught him to become the person that he is today. And the grief that he's feeling is just in direct proportion to the amount of love he received from her while she was here. That was I love you all so much. It is 9 o'clock. I got on the air at 6:30 this morning, but it was absolutely worth it. I'll see you all on Wednesday, God willing, and the creek don't rise. I'm sure David will have he had just landed at some time after 7. He was on a plane. So we'll see him at some point this week, not a problem. And thank you all. Oh, thank you, Carla. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. This person says, "Thank you, sir. This is community." And it was, Taryn. That was strong. That was really strong. Oh, Laverne says, I need to rewind so I could get the books. Continue to support this work, please. We are working our tail feathers off here, and to make sure you get what you need. There are no commercials. This is why I ask you all to subscribe to the Substack podcast. Subscribe to Substack so that I can continue to do the work and pay the people, that are working with me until we figure out how to elevate this platform to a different level. And I'm not forcing it to elevate because I truly want us to build it from the ground level and keep it. I want the foundation to be so strong. To be so strong. So I'm not forcing it to go into the stratosphere at this point. We're just continuing the work of building the foundation. And so I'm grateful to every one of you that sits here with us every single time. Every single time we come on the air. Thank you, Leroy. Good morning. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love you all so much. I'm getting off the air. I'm going to try and figure out breakfast and spend some time with my husband. So, this episode of Mornings with Mama is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you.